Guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Optibotimus coming to you with another video review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the new Transformer Collector Club 2014 incentive figure. That being Rampage, otherwise known as Protoform X. Now, as I said in my review of the Collector Club's Transmutate a little bit ago, Rampage here is the figure that you get when you sign up for the club. It's included in that subscription price. So, in addition to them putting on BotCon for us and sending out Collector Club magazines, as well as other kind of discounts, this is the figure that they give to us. Now, usually the figure that they give is a little bit different than the one that we buy. Both of them usually feature repaints, but the exclusive figure that's part of joining the club usually has a little bit something else. This being, he's got a newly molded head, kind of furthering the exclusive nature of this figure. Now, he just comes in a regular mailing box, but you do get a nice bio card with him. Zooming in to see that, you see a really nice image here with Rampage, and then it says Cybertron Protoform X. And as you can see, this is the Deluxe class Transformers Prime Megatron mold that I think it was just released in the entertainment pack. I don't think we actually got that individually, but it's utilizing that mold with this new head that you see. And the artwork looks terrific. Then coming over to the bio, it says, "Agony is a gift. Share it, and together sing of its glory." That definitely sounds like Rampage. And then for his read up here, it says, "Rampage remembers everything that the Maximals have done to him. Every injection, every cut that was made while it was still conscious in order to properly gauge the progress of the experiment. Those that called themselves scientists bore into Rampage's very spark, hoping to unlock the secrets of immortality. The pain was excruciating, and soon it overwhelmed Rampage's processors. So ever present was his agony that it eventually stopped being a tormentor, and instead became a comfort to him. A never-deserting companion that will always be by his side until the end of time. The experiment was the Maximals' greatest success, as well as their greatest failure. Inside Rampage, they succeeded in creating a spark that could not be extinguished. However, the process had also driven Rampage completely insane. The Maximals attempted to lock Rampage away someplace dark where he could be forgotten. They soon found out, however, that there are very few bars that can cage the monster they had built. So, this definitely reads very much like how Rampage's origin was given to us in Beast Wars. And that's why the packaging that you get with Transmutate says Maximal Rampage. Because initially, Rampage was a Maximal. And that's exactly what this is referencing. So it's not a typo, it's not an error or anything like that. It's meant to say that, because Rampage, as I said, initially was a Maximal. Keeping the packaging in here, as I showed off before when I reviewed Transmutate, it comes with two separate sections. One up here, obviously, for Transmutate, and then here is where you can store Rampage in his robot mode. They did this very similarly with another release of theirs, that being Overrun and Run Amok. And I love that they did it again. Now, people have talked about how they would have preferred if they left this package out and dropped $20 off of the figure. But for me, as a collector figure, I actually really appreciate having that packaging. Now, as I said, this is the Deluxe class Megatron mold for Transformers Prime. It is the exact same, and what's funny is the instructions, much like Hasbro's, because they got it from the Hasbro source, doesn't have this properly transformed. These do come out. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get them because I don't have any sorts of fingernails to wedge in there. So I'll just bring in some tweezers and do it. So pull this out, kind of wedge it in there, and pull it out. There we go. Do that on this side as well. Now, for me personally, I'm not going to transform it like this. Bringing this up, you can lock that in. This is what you have for the Megatron look. For me, though, while this looks great for Megatron, now obviously you can see his head sticking out there, I almost prefer to leave him tucked away to give it a little bit more of a distinction between him and Megatron. And it, I think, looks pretty good. I alternately transform it this way just to keep it looking a little different. The other thing that I like doing is taking these and kind of loosening these up, and then take this, fold this back up. And what this kind of reminds me of are the pinchers for Rampage. I mean, you remember he transformed into like a lobster or crab sort of thing? these kind of remind me of pinchers, and then you can just have them be like a little hover vehicle or something like that. I really dig this look. This for me is how I'm going to transform this Rampage. It's different than Megatron's look. It's a little bit more unique, like I said, in the fact that you can almost create little pinchers, and they're kind of articulated, I guess. I guess you could leave them up a little forward, but kind of like leaving them off to the side just because it gives that little lobster look, I think. So that works for me and makes me really like this figure even more. The other thing that you're seeing right up front is the great paint detail. You can see a wonderful gradient going from a red color here towards the middle of the torso, and then as it goes out, it gets more orange. You got this great purple on here, some nice yellow accents. This gradient is also on the pincher things here. You got some nice purple going on there. The blaster is pretty much just black and silver, but I'm really very impressed with this. Like I said, I almost think of this as like a Cybertronian hover car that kind of looks like a lobster, and that's what he was in the Beast Wars. So for me, it works, and it works beautifully. Now, because we've covered this already, I'm not going to show you how to transform it. Those instructions are out there, and if you'd like to know how to transform it or need help with it, I'll put the link to my review of this guy down in the video description. You can check that out, and if you have any problems, you can see what to do for yourself there. But because we've already covered the transformation, we're going to go from Rampage looking like this to looking like this. And again, you can see the coloring on here just looks incredible. The gradient going from the reddish to the orange color just looks spectacular. The purple also works very nicely in here. You got some gold highlights here in his abdomen area that really help pull things out. You got the purple here on the chest. You got the orange up here on his shoulders. Just overall looks terrific. Now, you can do the same thing with his gun. You can put it here if you want to. And actually, why is that not? I don't know. Put that in there all the way. You can do that, but again, it has more of a Megatron look. For me personally, I like keeping it looking as different as possible, so I like using this just as a regular blaster. It works for me. But everything about this is identical with the exception of his head. And that's where the biggest controversy comes in, the size of the guy's head. And zooming in so that we can see it a little bit better, it does look a little bit small. Now, there is a bit of an illusion going on here. The little horns here on the side really do make the head look smaller than I guess it is. It is still pretty small, don't get me wrong, but that needs to be there so that it can fit inside this hole in his vehicle mode. If they got rid of those, you could make the head bigger, but in doing so, you would lose that look for Rampage, and I don't think it would look as good. And from a lot of pictures that the Transformer Collector Club was showing us, the head just looked ridiculously tiny. I'm trying to get it so you can see it from all angles. There's the top of it. I mean, there is no question that it does look a little bit smaller, but when you factor in that these bits are there, it is about the normal size for a head. It's just everything else has to be squished down because those little horn things are there. Zooming in a little bit more, you can see that. I mean, that is a really nice looking head sculpt. Real good paint. You got the fangs coming along the side. You got the purple in his mouth, also along the side of his jawline, and then the green eyes. It absolutely looks like Rampage, and it looks great. In addition to that, you also notice that you do get the Protoform X logo right in the center there, which looks cool as well. Personally, I do see both sides of the argument, but for me, it's not as bad as the punch counterpunch. And the Collector Club has specifically said that they've heard people complain about that and didn't want the same sort of response with this. But if you eliminate those side bits and make the head bigger just proportionally, it doesn't look like Rampage. And I think they went with the better option to have those on there, scale down the head maybe a little, still get it to fit inside the rim here in his vehicle mode, and look decent. And I mean, I love the way that he looks. I really think he looks great. Now, for a comparison, here he is, and here's Transmutate. Both of them are deluxe figures, so they're going to scale well. But for me, while this was a very interesting story arc, where Rampage really sort of had compassion for Transmutate, for me, this guy is better served displayed next to depth charge. And since we got that previously from the Transformer Collector Club, this is a perfect companion piece to that depth charge figure that we got before. Again, both deluxe figures, this just looks terrific together. These guys are mortal enemies, and it's just right that we have both of them. Now, Rampage has always been a very well-liked character from the Beast Wars era. Subsequently, he's had other incarnations, but this is always the one that a lot of fans think of when they think of Rampage. And I really think that the Collector Club did a great job of recreating it. I think the mold for Megatron works very nicely as a repaint for this character. In the vehicle mode, there are subtle little things that you can transform him incorrectly that gives him a more unique look, I think. The transformation is identical, so nothing really changes. Now, I have seen some people transform the back differently. It kind of looks ugly, honestly. I think this looks a whole lot more streamlined and pretty, I guess. And then when you get to the robot mode, the biggest thing that people will complain about is the head. Honestly, I think that it's going to be a flip of a coin. Some people are either going to love it or they're going to hate it. For me, I completely understand why they did it the way they did. I think if they could make their own figure, they obviously wouldn't have this problem. But because they're locked into using previous molds, they need to really see a way to work around them. In this case, making sure that the head looks decent enough in robot mode, but then also fits in this whole section in his vehicle mode. I think they did a good job of balancing that out. I really do like this guy. And I do want to thank my friend Joe from Ace's Toy Store who was able to get this for me. As many of you know in my Transmutate review, I mentioned how I wasn't able to pick him up, mostly because of like an accounting error or something, but I'm happy to have him. For me, this was a very strong selling point in signing up for the Collector Club again, and I'm anxious to see what they're going to come out with for next year as their incentive figure, which more than likely we'll find out what figure it is at this year's BotCon, and can't wait to see what they show us. So while this figure is no longer available through the Transformer Collector Club, you had to be subscribed previously before it's released to be able to get it, you probably could find it on places like eBay or maybe even Big Bad Toy Store. You'll pay a little bit more, and I would absolutely recommend and encourage you guys to check out the Transformer Collector Club and consider joining it. All of that information I'll put down in the video description, so click on that and you can get all the details on how you can join it so you don't miss out on a great figure like this again. But beyond that, that's about it, guys. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been Optibotimus. Keep in touch with me. Find out recent purchases as well as all upcoming video reviews all at facebook.com/teambotimus and by following me over on Twitter at twitter.com/Optibotimus. Also, don't forget to check out my new website at optibotimusreviews.com where you can see all my videos from this previous week as well as see what I have coming up for future release. And if you like this review, please rate, comment, and share this video. And until next time, I'll talk to you later.